Welcome everyone and a very good evening to all to the webinar on how sustainability an area for research in healthcare. I welcome our respected guest speaker, chairperson, co-chair, mentors, committee members, students, and our attendees. I feel immense pleasure in welcoming our guest speaker, Dr. Sandeep Narayan, Senior Principal Scientist, CSIR, CFTRI, and CSIR, NEERI, to deliver his talk. Sir, over to you.
So can I start?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So
Yes,
good
sir.
evening to all of you. Sorry, I'm sitting in the lab. We are doing some COVID project. So I have not getting the list of participants. How many participants have joined? 28. I'm seeing here.
Yes, sir. It will be increasing in some time
And
now.
what is the back? And how much time I have?
Sir, 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Okay. So sorry, I could not make a presentation, but I will tell exactly what we are doing now. And I understand that most of them are from healthcare background, either doctors or researchers in healthcare. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
See, I will just share some insights. What is required in sustainability, especially post COVID. So, post COVID, everything is reset now. Okay. So, as Madam has told, ki sustainable. What does sustainability mean? Okay, I will not go to definitions. Madam will cover. But what are the areas in which research is required, and what are the opportunities for students that I will indicate? So can I share a slide? Then based on those slides, I will explain how we are approaching sustainability from various angles, and lot of mission mode projects have been started, especially in the last 2 to 3 years. So if I give some examples, what are the initiatives at government level, pan India, including all the top labs, ICMR, CSR, DRDO, as well as IITs. So people will appreciate much. Okay. And can I start sharing?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Or I'm saying something? Hello?
No, sir, not yet.
Are you able to share?
Yes, sir. Now your PPT is visible. Please go ahead.
See, I'm not presenting this PPT because I was because as I told, uh, are you
So
able to
please
see
put
the?
on your video also so we can see you as you speak.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
But I think the speed will be less. Uh,
We can just try, sir.
it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, Sorry, everybody able to see the screen?
Yeah,
Yes,
sir.
sir, it's visible. Yeah.
Yes.
So this is one lecture I gave in the diabetic conference recently, last year. So in the Society of Diabetology, they have a yearly conference. Okay. So so one area is the nexus between food and health. Okay. So but since the time is short, are you able to see very clearly what is the various goals? What are the various goals? Sustainable development goals. Are, are you able to see this?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Ah. So please understand the whole concept of sustainability has been factored in all these goals, and all these goals are interlinked, whether it is good health, water, sanitation, energy. Can, can you permit me to take one call? I think it is coming from headquarters.
No problem, sir. Please go ahead. I'll take over this slide. Not an issue. So just to give you all a background, this SDG is called Sustainable Development Goals. This is introduced by United Nations, and this is a goal that has been distributed across the world for all the sectors, whether it is a industry, whether it is institutions, or whether it is even community for that matter. All of them can relate to these SDG goals, and they can actually align their programs with these SDG goals. So you're done with the call? Okay. So basically there are 17 SDG goals that you can see over here. Now let us say a hospital. Hospital, how will they align to these goals which is given by United Nations? So let us say, for example, the third one, good health and well-being. Here the hospital can align a lot because your major objective is to provide good health and well-being to all the people in the community. So at the same time, how in your recruitment process, the gender equality can be taken up. Like you are giving equal opportunity to, without any distinguish between, men and women, or with respect to equality in the third gender also, giving opportunity to the third gender. And how the hospital is thinking about affordable and clean energy. All the hospitals are energy intensive. We are very much aware of the fact. But how can we think about energy mix, what is coming inside, and how can we make it affordable? Sandeep sir, just hint me once you're done so you can take it over.
So you can complete, then I will.
You're done
I'm
with
ready.
the call, right? Yeah, please
Yes,
take
yes.
over, sir.
No, no, you are nicely explaining.
No, it's okay. Please, sir, take it over.
Okay. So as explained by Kirti madam, I will since madam will integrate with healthcare, I will give a larger philosophy because you're also working with in an integrated fashion. So the whole understanding now is going is all are interconnected. For example, now I am working in a food institute. I'm working in a food institute. So we are having a lot of malnutrition problems. Okay, so also we are working in malnutrition hospitals in Mysore and giving interventions of food. So one research area is we are working with JSS hospital, and these are all research programs. Okay, and they are at the frontiers of research. So in research, there are three types of research. One is you are giving something, evaluating trials. Second is developing the frontiers of knowledge, why malnutrition is taking place. Second, developing better therapeutic and nutraceutical interventions. Okay, so for example, people who are very close to hospital industry and professionals who are related to that, please understand ki in India, the whole problem is any development we are is indicated in the name of number of beds, hospital beds which are increased. They will say, but a country like India cannot have so much of hospital infrastructure at least till 2030 to 40. So what we require is preventive approach to hospital healthcare. Okay, and you have to integrate all the system, preventive system and curative systems, as well as indirect systems like better food, better nutraceutical, better physiotherapy based systems before going to the curative healthcare. So for example, I will explain you the goal number 2 with JSS Medical College. We have addressed severely malnourished patients with nutraceutical. Okay, so only initial success we have got, but it is a deep research program available for students. Okay, and students of life sciences and medical background can take, because when you take these trials, you require a food scientist, you require engineers and also doctors to test. Okay, so one example of zero hunger is how to prevent malnutrition in India, and you can see malnutrition status. So we are working with Ministry of Health and Child Welfare, but it is not a single step study. Unfortunately, earlier we were working separately, doctors were working separately, pharmaceutical companies are working separately. I'll give one more example. Earlier there was only a pharma product or a food product. So I'm talking of goal number 2. These are all sustainability indices. So recently, you must be knowing a company known as Abbott. Are you aware of Abbott? Okay. So Abbott, I will give you the lenses which you wear after cataract surgery are from Abbott. Okay. So now they have entered a high-end nutrition space where the recent products are nutrition-based products, even for a dialysis patient in ICU, and also products which is helpful in pediatrics, clinically proven. Okay, so that for example, omega 3 fatty acids. So there is good scientific literatures to prove that omega 3 fatty acid, if you don't give, then there is a cognitive dysfunctioning of the brain and immunity is compromised. So lot of these products post COVID are coming as immunity products, because more than the vaccine, food can be the vaccine of the future. And lot of doctors now are recommending all these nutraceutical based products in their health, in their practice also. So this is regarding goal number 2. Okay. And apart from this, for example, this I'm telling you interventions where you have no other option for children. So latest products in the market are from CFTRI. They are clinically tested. We have to do animal house model testing, and we run standards. So for students, this is one area for food health nexus. So and lot of fellowships are available for students. And CSIR, we are having 40 laboratories. Okay. So I will explain you in COVID. We are having nutritional interventions. We are having vaccines. We are having drugs. So we have four verticals, and fourth is better disinfection devices. Four verticals are there. Every Thursday and Tuesday we are having a meeting. So these are the opportunities available at the interface of food and health. Okay. Third option is you are saying clean water and sanitation. Okay. So India doesn't have sewage network. So better water, better quality sanitation. Okay. Better quality air. Okay. So we are working at the interface of both what is the pollution and how it is affecting public health. So lot of research opportunities are available for researchers. For example, if PM 2.5 pollution is high, if ozone level in the gases is high, if SO2 is high, and since in India we have lot of air pollution, lot of water pollution, so this interface of pollution and health is coming in a new way. So lot of PhD programs are available. So if you are from engineering background, you can develop engineering solution. You are from science background, you can try to understand what is the extent of pollution. If you want to be on the clinical side, what is the effect of pollution on human health? For example, the classical cases in Delhi. What is the effect on the health? For example, what is the effect of Delhi pollution on the COVID patient? Whether it will increase the intensity of COVID. Okay. And after COVID, what triggers COVID? What type of climatic condition or pollution scenarios can trigger COVID? Huh? What are bad sanitation practice can pose risk of similar viral diseases? Okay. So at this interface, you can think of doing research under goal number 6, and you can refer ACSIR. Our PhD programs are under the Academy of CSIR, ACSIR. So the whole purpose of these PhD programs were it should be highly transdisciplinary. Okay. So after COVID, students can work based on their interest and expertise. Okay. And opportunities are available for science, engineering, healthcare graduates, all of them. Okay. For seventh, are you seeing goal number 7? Hope I'm audible. Can
Yes,
you
sir.
okay.
Yes, sir.
So in clean water, I will also explain what is the program now going on. Okay. For example, now the latest paper says the COVID virus remains in sewage up to 13 days. Okay. So yesterday only we started a program on disinfecting this and sampling. So we have started surveillance. You must be knowing a lab known as CCMB, Center for Cellular Molecular Biology. Okay, so this is leading the COVID surveillance diagnostics, and also we are mapping patients, normal population, okay, with ICMR to understand how the virus is present in air, water, if on various objects, and also what is the we are also monitoring surveillance. So we are doing a lot of studies in patients without COVID infection, with COVID infection, what is their fate. And you must be knowing a lab known as IGIB, Institute of Genomics and Integrative Biology. Okay, so the director himself is a pass out of AIMS. So we are also involving AIMS. Okay, so I am taking care of the disinfection devices, but we have four vertical: disinfection devices, surveillance, drugs, vaccines. So the drug on the drugs also, we you must be knowing a lab known as Indian Institute of Chemical Technology, Hyderabad. So the technology of hydrochloroquine is coming from CSIR, and Bharat Biotech is also working with us, and also in the supply chain logistics, which is critical in hospital healthcare, we are working with TCS. So these are all new projects which originated only because of COVID, and there is a huge integration. Okay. Unfortunately, other academic laboratories like IITs, they don't have very strong background in biology. So since CSR has background in biology, chemistry, engineering, medical sciences, so and we are also all these programs are approved by ICMR. Okay, so all the drugs, vaccines, CSR has been taken as a knowledge partner. So this is the water surveillance also we are doing, air surveillance we are doing, in blood also we are mapping, and we also have a COVID hospital at CFTRI. We are taking all the blood samples, we are sequencing all the genome. I'm not much aware of that, but these are the latest developments, and we are working with all the medical hospitals in Mysore. So like this, there are 20 teams to understand what is the type of antibodies developed. Okay, so this is we are supporting ICMR. So a lot of other hospitals also involved. Then I will go to goal number 7. Please understand the whole future depends on what you learn from COVID, how much understanding you develop, and how COVID is triggered. So COVID can be triggered by n number of things: bad hygiene, poor immunity. So for pure immunity, opportunity is better foods, nutraceuticals, surveillance, and the seventh goal is better energy. Okay, so you must be knowing the most threatening aspect is climate change. Okay, so to avoid this, healthcare setup will have huge problems if suddenly there are floods, sudden changes in weather conditions, so the virus can be triggered. So there are a lot of labs of CSIR like the Central Electrochemical Research Institute. We are working with a lot of companies for making better batteries, electrical storage, biofuels. So people who are interested, especially life sciences and engineering students, are working on biofuels. Goal number 9. Goal number 9 is better productivity in industry. So industry has to be more sustainable. So we are also doing various advanced tools to assess sustainability like life cycle assessment. So the whole logic is whatever you are using. For example, now everybody is sitting, you must be using lot of gadgets, lot of packaged food items. So in day-to-day care, you are using detergents. So per kg of that product, what are the total emissions to atmosphere? Because these emissions are getting accumulated in the atmosphere. It results in climate change, and it may trigger any type of disease at any type of time. Okay. So the whole understanding of science in a holistic manner, because science cannot be compartmentalized like this is healthcare, this is engineering. All everything has to be lumped together. Okay. Now I'm not talking of reduced equalities, because if you harmonize everything, equalities will automatically reduce. Now the goal number 11 is sustainable cities. So we are also working on smart city mission with institutes like SIDAC to develop better water quality sensors, better microbial analysis of water. Okay, smart adulteration kits for foods. For example, when you're testing milk, what is the most sustainability angle is, do you have any gadgets to test immediately the foods which you are taking daily? Because the most sustainable aspect is whatever you are consuming daily, water, foods, and air, whether they are safe. Air is coming under more clean energy. So for sensors, indoor air sensors also we are working, and these are all initiated areas. Huge research opportunities are there. Regarding food, we are developing lot of kits. So the famous kit which has come is rapid detection of presence of antibiotics and pesticide in milk, that is launched by CSIR. So the name of the laboratory is CSIO Chandigarh. So we have electronics laboratory, lot of research opportunities are there, and also very safe gadgets so that your food is safe. So we're also doing a lot of modeling work, like AI based modeling. So you integrate the supply chain of the food right from farm to your kitchen. So a lot of AI based blockchain modeling is coming there, so that tomorrow you can trace. For example, after 5 years, lot of research is going, you can scan through your app and find out where the food or the rice which you are eating is originating. Because the most important aspect of sustainability is whatever I'm eating daily, inhaling, it should be clean. Okay. And prevent, these are all preventive approaches. Curative approaches is once you have a disease, how to prevent it. Okay. For that also you must be knowing, we have launched a drug, a nutraceutical compound known as BRG64, to support diabetic patients. So it is an Ayurvedic formulation tested as per clinical trials to support Ayurvedic patients. So that is a drug from our nutraceutical, plant-based nutraceutical from our lab known as CMAP. We are also working on, suppose you suffer some disease, lifestyle diseases like cancer, diabetics. I am talking of curative measures. So we are working with Ayurvedic doctors, allopathic doctors to test lot of natural formulations like turmeric, polyunsaturated fatty acids, and lot of liver based formulations, and validate that scientifically. For example, you have fatty liver disease, you have some cancer, it can it be used after the drug disease is detected as a curative measure, and also doesn't increase the intensity of the disease? For example, if you are suffering from fatty liver, there are a lot of compounds in Ayurveda we are testing which is giving favorable results, but can it also prevent the next stage of cancer? So 40 laboratories are involved. So these are some preventive as well as curative approaches, but at least we are trying to give as a supplement to a lot of patients. Okay. Now, responsible consumption, it depends on everybody. Okay. And the lifestyle has to be simple. Only this country can sustain is you have to be active, and like you take any vehicle, it only goes to the garage after 10 to 15 years. 1 lakh kilometers guaranteed. So preventive approach should make you at least healthy till 50 years of life. You cannot go on increasing the hospital beds. Only after 50, the curative approaches should come in healthcare. And all the preventive approaches of classical yoga, better food, better water, better air, all research opportunities are available. But the clinical community has to come. What is the effect of bad water, bad food, interface, and integrate all the approaches? So this is where the research is required. You can see the why active cases in the US and even a small country like UK is double than India, uh, and we are 10 times more than the UK. And today only we saw vitamin D deficiency is the key cause for low immunity. So immunity based research products are coming in a big way in the market, but you have to integrate. You cannot take it, it has to be scientifically proved. Okay. Then the most important is life below water. So we have some labs like National Institute of Oceanography, where we are exploring some very high-end compounds like omega-3 fatty acids, ocean minerals. Okay, so this is also one possibility. And the most important is 17. Unless you partner each other, okay. For example, the question is there, why I should do research? What is the research problem? What is the research methodology? And whether my problem is integrated at the back end and the front end. Suppose, for example, I'm in the clinical professional. Okay, okay, but I have a lot of patients. Can I give the same drug to all the patients, or can I give some preventive approaches also? So this requires long mindset change, long term trials, and also lot of research mindset has to come. Unfortunately, in India, the researchers work differently, the professionals work differently, and active research output should be disseminated. For example, there is a diabetic doctor. He has tried both conventional drugs, new nutraceutical on various patients, or even if he has tried three natural anti-diabetic drugs, what is the effect on various patients? Why the effect is different? This type of research is required and it should be published. It should be widely available to people. Okay. So I think with that, my 15 minutes is over. So anything I want, if you're interested, I will be happy to answer. And if you want more information of our COVID research efforts, so I tried to convince you because suddenly the government has asked us to make a COVID team and all laboratories are involved. None of the laboratories are excluded. But unfortunately, I could not make a presentation today. So I hope it was useful to you. And I will be happy if any questions are there. Okay. But my only request is the age is come now to, after COVID, to reset everything. Think if there is an alternative way. Okay. I will give you one example of sustainability which is badly practiced. Kirti madam may agree. COVID virus is in sewage, and in Bangalore and Karnataka, sewage is treated sewage is applied on the land only, and the sewage plants don't work. So that is the direct threat. And recent papers are telling even grey water, if it is recycled as done in Karnataka, can create new types of pneumonia strain. Okay. And the most important aspect of sustainability is daily cosmetic products. Okay. Are you able to see the first slide? Are you able to see the first slide?
Yes, sir. It is visible.
Okay. So please understand, daily we are using lot of micropollutants in terms of soap, shampoos, hand washes, sunscreens. All these chemicals now is getting accumulated in the food chain because our population density is very high. Water resources are not treated. There are no technologies to treat this micropollutant. So it is coming in carrot. Okay. You can see pesticides coming. Okay. So these are all the chemicals which are likely to come in all the food items. Okay. So these are all the personal care products which is going in water. So this is a chain in which now antibiotics are also detected in milk. You must have seen the reports. Honey is adulterated. So adulteration is avoidable, but what is unavoidable is whatever chemicals you are using it, there is no link for its safety. Lot of banned products are going. Okay. So you can see this is India scenario. Okay. How much micropollutants are coming. This is just an example of micropollutant which is coming in water in Spain, fully treated plant. And in India, there are no sewage treatment. All these pharmaceutical compounds and personal care compounds will go in water, and there is sufficient evidence to prove that they are uptaken in crops. And these crops and vegetables you are eating. So slowly, slow poisoning is there. And this is one example, since you will appreciate uh, India is the next exporter of APIs. This is active pharmaceutical ingredients, and all these chemicals you can see it is found in water near pharmaceutical plants. So pharma industries basically are developing drugs to cure patients. So doctors are using these drugs, antibiotics, but nearby the water is contaminated. And last week only you saw the Eluru case. So this is very close to Eluru. Okay. So preventive approaches, research on preventive approaches, balancing curative approaches, and integrating everything. Means engineer should also work with the doctors, doctors should work with engineers, and that type of research program has to be built. A professional degree is not only engineering or doctors, and active researchers should come, whether they are engineers, whether they are science people, and whether they are doctors. There should be active research collaboration, whether it is a malnutrition problem, energy problem, lifestyle disease problem. So with that, thank you very much for the invitation. I will be happy if there are any questions.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for such a valuable talk. I think we can move on to our next session.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Should I remove the presentation?
It is done, sir. No problem. Now I would like to call upon Ms. Kirti D'Souza. Ma'am is a co-chairperson of CAHO Student Research Mentoring Program, Director of Seeds of Sustainability, Safety Advisor for CAHO, Lead Auditor, Environment OHNS, Energy and Food Safety. I would like to add a very valuable thing about ma'am. I would say that she is a very creative person and a great multitasker. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Vaishnavi. You have added many adjectives, I should say. I would like to thank Dr. Sandeep. His presentation, though he didn't have PPTs to speak every slide, but it had a lot of data and statistics to back the requirement for research in sustainability. And I'm very thankful to CAHO for having given this space for creating opportunity for the students to do research in sustainability. Thanks a lot to our chair, Dr. Shweta, for encouraging us to spread this sustainability research with free hands with respect to various people. It's not only limited to engineering students, as Dr. Sandeep has indicated. It is also definitely applicable to various disciplines who are all available in our research program. So with this little background, I will just go into the presentation. Is the presentation visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So when we talk about research, Dr. Sandeep has already given a background of the requirement of research is very, very huge, especially in our country where we have several issues with respect to health and environment, which is faced by all of us on a day-to-day basis. The requirement is huge. So if you look into a couple of papers, what it says is basically all over from 1970 onwards, if you can just see, this is a graph that is made. The journal where research has been looked for, in the sense sustainability in healthcare has been searched. This is almost like 1.4 million times people have referred from 1970. So that means definitely people have felt the importance for sustainability in healthcare. That is very, very clear. And this is not limited only to the globe, but it is applicable to every country and very largely applicable to a country like ours. So with this requirement, which is being so strong, if you look into some papers which talk about, like Middle East, I picked up one. There is someone who is thinking about applying sustainability in healthcare by taking various pillars, like the team has taken up lean management, patient satisfaction, employee satisfaction, and continuous improvement, CSR, branding, accreditation, these kind of pillars. And under each pillar, there are various elements, sub-elements, I should say, which has been chosen, which can relate with healthcare. So this definitely gives us a feel that sustainability has been considered very highly in relation with healthcare. And also people are putting continuous efforts. How do we reflect sustainability in healthcare? So in this, they have said lean management and patient satisfaction are very high. So they have also tried to rate it. Now, what is really required for us when we are thinking about research and sustainability? There are more than 15 students who have opted for sustainability related research in healthcare. So that is where we thought this particular webinar should attend to that segment of all people who are going to be attached with research and sustainability to understand the basics of what is sustainability, how is it coined globally, how does globally this is being understood. So the United Nations in 1988, they coined this word called sustainability. It simply means handing over the environment the way we received from our past generation to the future generation. But this handing over is to be done in what way? That is something which we need to slightly think about. And globally, there has been a lot of thought process. The Strategic Advisory Group on Environment has come up with this particular three pillar that is called triple bottom principle. So you can't say anything is sustainable when there is an economic meaning to it, when there is an environmental consciousness in it, and when there is a connect with the society in it. Only when these three come together can you really say that particular project is sustainable, particular healthcare organization is having a sustainable development goal, or aspiration towards sustainability is seen as matured only when anything is viewed from these three triple bottom principle. Now, what is the target or the aim? Anything that we do, whether it is food industry, whether it is healthcare industry, whether it is institution by itself, whether it is community, everywhere the angle of thinking should be that whatever exercise, whether you are putting up a waste management plant, whether you're putting up a water treatment plant, whether you're putting up a energy conservation plan for the hospital, whether it is making economic sense. At the same time, is it helpful to environment? What is the strategic steps that I have been taking? And is this step helping environment? The decisions that we are making, like we have lighting, for example. So what kind of lights are we bringing in the hospital? Is it conserving light, energy conserving type, like it is LED, or it is a conventional type where the energy is consumed more? So every project that is brought in has to be viewed also from the society, where you think about discrimination, you think about integration, you think about equality. So there are several factors. Now, to understand these three pillars, what is happening in the globe is there is a standard called Global Reporting Initiative. Now, there are various stakeholders when we talk about sustainability. It could be starting with investors, customers, business partners, government, institutions, university, research organization, suppliers and subcontractors, and there could be financial institution who will be funding the hospitals or research centers, society at large, employees, contractors. So it is like all of them have their role to play when we want to achieve sustainability in any sector. So how to understand the sustainability initiative across the globe? Is it something which is spoken of just in words? Definitely not. If you look at this COVID times, there are several companies I have listed here, starting from Microsoft, Shell, Citigroup, General Mills, and Volvo, Daimler. There are many of them, Amazon and Adani, so many of them who have made a public statement. The public statement to say, what is our commitment to become sustainable? Some of them have gone with net zero emission target by 2050. Some of them say 2025. Some of them say 2030. So you can see, irrespective of the hit on business because of COVID, people have understood sustainability is something which will take them to a long journey. And they have started investing the time and resources to research in this area and take serious targets. Now, this is not a scenario only outside. Just if you take Indian Railways, for example, so many initiatives Indian Railways have taken. By 2030, they will be becoming no more Indian Railways. They will be called as greener railways. Because if you go deeper into them, there are so many workshops of railways which are certified for Green Co. They are built as per the Indian Green Building Council guidelines, and they are certified for green certification at the building stage itself. So there is lots happening even in India. You take Mahindra Group, you take Dalmia Group, you take banks. So there are various sectors who are thinking seriously in this particular angle. So some of the Indian companies which are non-healthcare, just to give you a hint, that it is an integrated approach which will really take us towards this direction. So Jio has committed by 2035, they will become carbon zero. JSW has taken initiative. Hindalco is an aluminum company. They are awarded this year as the world's most sustainable aluminum company. So that way, there are a lot of examples that you can find around. Now, how did these companies, whether in healthcare or non-healthcare or pharma, how they all are able to come up and say that we are sustainable? There needs to be a common initiative of understanding. Now, that is what has been brought by GRI standards. GRI standards is Global Reporting Initiative. This standard is used worldwide to report sustainability commitment of the companies in any manner. But this is the steps they actually reflect in their report to say how much we are committed in the economic pillar, how much we are committed in environmental pillar, and how much we are committed on the social pillar. So there are 7 elements you can see here in the economic pillar, GRI number 201 to 207, which will indicate the economic elements of sustainability. Now, if you look at the environmental side, you have 8 elements that reflect the environmental sustainability. Now, if you take materials, for example, what are the choices of material that's available in the hospital? I will just take one example of housekeeping chemicals. There can be a lot of hazardous housekeeping chemicals that are there, which is being used in the hospital. But at the same time, there are green chemicals that are available. There's a lot of R&D that is being done. There are many companies who have come up with green chemicals, which is extensively used in facility management companies, IT companies, which are also used in some of the hospitals. But the knowledge has to be researched and taken forward. So alternative for materials which are more eco-friendly, the paint that we use, just take the example of building maintenance, the paint that we use. There are alternative paints which have come, which are water-based now, which are volatile organic compound free. So that way, every element that is given over here under environment makes a lot of sense to healthcare sector. Energy does make a lot of sense. Water and effluent. When we say water and effluent, Dr. Sandeep has given a very huge picture. It is the healthcare is not only participating here as a generation of consumption of water for running your hospitals and not only generating your waste effluent in the hospital, but a larger responsibility lies in healthcare to go into preventive care rather than curative care. Because the amount, whatever antibiotics we are consuming, he rightly put in a slide, those antibiotics, the API, active pharma ingredient, the percentage what is absorbed in the body is very less. But most of it is going back into the sewage system in the discretion process, discreta, and that particular waste, when it is treated or untreated, to what extent it is treated, is going back to the system, either into water, the freshwater body, or it is going into the land where the growth is happening of these vegetables and etc. So it is getting back in the environment, and in the food that we are eating, it is back in the system. So that way, we need to be very careful, and there's a lot of opportunity for research in effluent and waste in the healthcare sector. Similarly, the compliance and supplier environmental assessment. The supplier environmental assessment is a very, very great opportunity globe-wide today, because there are several companies around the world who are venturing into seeing that their supply chain is responsible. In the sense, whatever they are manufacturing, they are our suppliers. So when they manufacture paper, when they manufacture medicines, when they manufacture any other ingredients that we require in the healthcare sector, day-to-day routine, we consume so much of material. So how does the supply chain, not only from the material content, their logistics effort, etc. Like Dr. Sandeep said, he spoke about TCS, who have partnered for logistics supply chain systems to be automized, to be monitored, so that a lot of environmental emissions can be reduced, optimization can be brought in. So each and every topic is an ocean by itself, having so much of opportunity for research for students to pick up in the healthcare sector. Similarly, when we come to the third pillar, which is actually our social pillar, there are 19 elements which relate with the social pillar. Most of us don't have an awareness of how social pillar is connected with healthcare. Basic point, starting from the employment. When you employ a person, how you are not having a discrimination, how you give clarity to the person on the employment terms, how transparent you are in making the employee understand. These are the social, because you are connecting with the community back to take your resources from the society. So how is your engagement process back with the society when you're employing them into healthcare? Labor management relationships. So when a labor, definitely none of the healthcare organizations can run without contractors or laborers for day-to-day activities. So most of our activities like housekeeping, waste management, maybe firefighting, it all happens on contract labor contracts. So these contracts, how much do they talk about working hours? How much do they talk about awareness in these particular laborers to know their rights on access to safe drinking water, or about their comfort level in the work zone where they are working, whether they are able to report on PPEs if it is not accessible, come and report about uncomfortness, hazards that they are getting exposed. So next is our occupation health and safety 403. This is a wonderful element which has a lot of applicability for healthcare workers, because you are service providers to the society, and at the same time employees as well as contractors, even the patients themselves, have a lot of possibilities for exposure of hazards. So how do we have a system to identify them and initiate a process for incident management, recording the number of occurrences of injury and illness because of the practices in healthcare? So all that you need to go on relating. So there is 19 elements where the social angle of sustainability can be identified in every healthcare. It can be monitored and it can be reported. This is what happens across the world when a company is publishing a sustainability report. And one thing wonderful about the sustainability reports, they're all accessible online. Just put it in Google, because this is an initiative for a public awareness, for a public statement of the commitment of the company. So today, if Adani is putting up a sustainability report, or Mahindra or Tata's is putting up, it is basically to exhibit their commitment. How much of water am I consuming in making one car? How much of water am I consuming, energy am I consuming in making, so let's say for treating one patient. This is how the performance indicator goes. So every parameter here has a performance goal which will be identified, or an indicator which will be identified, monitored consistently, and then reported. So you're able to have a systematic approach within the company to see your performance, and then report it for a global audience to say, this is our commitment, we are serious about our sustainability journey, and we have a lot of interest and investment to achieve our sustainability goals. So that way it goes. So there are a lot of elements that you can see. I'm not going into the details. This presentation will be available for the attendees. So definitely you can go deeper into it to have an understanding. So I have taken up another example of Australia, where you have Victorian Health and Human Services Building Authority, the state of Victoria in Australia. They have taken up environmental sustainability, one pillar. They have taken up environmental sustainability, where they have strategized by the year 2030 or so. They will actually have greater commitment to environmental sustainability, achieve 2050, 2050, where they will become carbon net zero. This is not a simple commitment. So here is a great example of a government coming into picture to initiate in healthcare sector. They will achieve this kind of a target. This is just for an example I wanted to share. Now, similarly, how is this being felt in healthcare system? If we just talk about one indicator in environment, which is your energy or greenhouse gas. When we talk about greenhouse gas emission, we feel our hospitals are consuming energy. Yes. Now that is the only way that we contribute to greenhouse gases is our thinking. But if you look into deeply, worldwide, how is greenhouse gas emissions identified? It is classified into three: scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. Scope 1 is something which is like a direct emission. I'm consuming petrol, I'm consuming fuel to run my ambulances in the hospital, to run my DG in the hospital. Now, this is a direct emission into the atmosphere. I'm consuming 100 liters of diesel, I'm burning that diesel to convert into power. Now, that is having emissions of CO2 and other gases into atmosphere, which are called as greenhouse gas emissions. So direct emission is coming under scope 1. So in healthcare sector, as I've briefed you, there are refrigerants that is being used, there are medical gases that is being used, there's diesel, petrol, and LPG that is being used. These are the scope 1 emissions which come under GHG gases. Now, what is scope 2? Scope 2 is electricity that is consumed. Now, you may derive electricity from green power sources, renewable power sources, or from water you generate your electricity. For direct heating and cooling you may be using. So for all purpose you're using electricity. So this is another area where direct emissions into greenhouse gases is being contributed. But here you can't see it visibly because electricity is actually generated by coal. Now, if you look into the transmission system, if you want to see, if you save 1 unit of electricity in a hospital, it is equivalent to 5 units of energy that is at the generation point of a coal-based power plant. Why it is equivalent to 5 units that is saved at the coal plant? Because in the transmission of this particular energy and the efficiency that it has for transmission, there is a lot of losses that is happening. So by the time if it comes to your end use, there is 5 units which is lost in transmission. So please keep in mind, every unit that is saved in the hospital, it is equivalent to 5 units that is saved in the generation point. So that is example of the scope 2. Now coming to scope 3. Now it is important to understand scope 3 because worldwide, the report that is generated, I have the statistics in the latest slide, it shows the greater opportunity to save greenhouse gas emissions is from the scope 3 in the healthcare sector. This is the 70% contributor for global problems, climate change challenges worldwide. I'm not talking about India, it is worldwide. So if you look at what are scope 3, scope 3 may you have upstream and downstream and some places where you have both. Now this particular slide I have put here to show the commitment of that Australian healthcare commitment 2050, what they said. These are all the areas where they have taken their objectives and targets and they have started working to see that they become net zero. Now, this is the way the KPI is getting monitored in their hospitals. Now, what is per bed energy consumption? Convert it into the CO2, ton of CO2 that is actually emitted, equivalent to the energy that is consumed. Now, kiloliters of water that is consumed in the hospital, reams of paper that is being consumed, and the waste. This is how the monitoring happens. Now, there are different units by which it can be measured. It can be per bed, per square meter, or it is per FTE or per patient treated. This may be different units which you may consider to report your commitment towards environmental sustainability. This is just an example for you to get a feeler. So the research when you do, this is how you can pick up the topics in individual hospital to report about what is the GHG commitment as of today, what is their per bed per day emission today, waste generated today, water today, and what is the target they want to take, what are all the measures they are taking to reach that particular target, how they will achieve the goal. This could be a systematic approach. And don't think that these initiatives only towards environment. All these initiatives makes greater economic sense. The way that you look at energy conservation, definitely it is a conservation on your energy bill that you're paying heftily on month-on-month basis. So same is the sense with waste, same is the sense with water and paper and other materials. So end of the day, it makes a greater economic sense for the healthcare sector to think sustainability for environment. Now, to take you further into the global scenario of healthcare, what initiatives have been taken towards sustainability, you can see that the climate change issues, which is reported by CDC, it shows these are the various related diseases that are connected with the climate issue. Today, when we say climate, it is directly connected with greenhouse gases. That is how I'm connecting more the greenhouse gas emission, more the climate challenges that we have. Untimely rains, drought, and all those issues that we are facing, continuing with this particular drought and flood situation. So these are all the health issues that are coming because of the air pollution. Now, you know that Delhi situation, how it is, metro cities, we are suffering because of the air pollution. So that way, lot of health. So this gives a sense for research in the preventive factor than the curative factor. SDG goals, already Dr. Sandeep has given a very great insight. I just want to take you all to the element 3, which is like good health and well-being. So just to give you a glimpse, why is this making so much sense? If you look at the COVID, post-COVID and pre-COVID, if you look at both, pre-COVID, there was a great progress in healthcare industries, but there was a need for accreditation or acceleration in care towards each of the objectives. But post-COVID, most of it has got an impact with respect to, let's say, if you take up a child immunization program, more than 70 countries have been interrupted. They have been impacted because of COVID. Now, what is the resultant of that? Hundreds of thousands of under 5 aged children are dead. Their death is expected by 2020. So it is something like a huge impact in the coming generation. Now, why is it important again to think about the SDG goals? Sustainability is thought in different ways, right? So GRI is one way to report your progress. Now, this SDG is one way to say how you can take a path to relate your hospitals, relate your healthcare, and then declare your progress. So these are projects, the projects that you can relate yourself with towards research and towards execution, and then say how you're connected with the SDG goals and report them. So here, if you look into the healthcare sector, less than half of the global population is actually having access to essential healthcare services by 2017 survey. So you can understand there's a huge opportunity for healthcare for a long journey even ahead. So if they can think about sustainability, then there is a huge contribution. Now, reducing healthcare environmental footprint. This is called a program called SHIP. This was also introduced with the aim to see the greenhouse gas reduction, resource depletion, the chemical pollution, which is happening by working with health ministries, hospitals, and health systems in 10 countries. So sustainable health in procurement project. SHIP is something, before you procure anything, you look at the stock of your supplier. How are they performing on the chemical pollution, on the resource depletion, while they manufacture whatever they're supplying to you? How is their greenhouse gas emission reduction program? And then you choose such suppliers who are committed to this particular reduction program. That is the SHIP program, which is a sustainability initiative. Another one, which was released on 5th of June this year, 2020, by United Nations, is Sustainable Health Procurement Guidance Note. So here, before again procuring, what are all the things that you need to take care in your supply chain, in your logistics, before it ends up in your hospital? So this whole guidance note is like a huge initiative of UNDP to spread the awareness, because 70% of the greenhouse gas emissions are coming from the scope 3, which is upstream and downstream. Upstream is your supply chain, and downstream is your customer and healthcare after your hospital care, like home care and others. So how there's a great opportunity in upstream and downstream, and hence this initiative by the UN. Now, healthcare without harm. Because of lack of time, I'm not going to play this video, but this is definitely available in YouTube. You can just type healthcare without harm in YouTube and you will get to see this video. Now, this is a commitment which is going across the countries, across the continents, I should say. This program is a commitment. What Dr. Sandeep was talking about, the pollutants which is going into the environment, the active APIs. The APIs, how to reduce those APIs so that the environmental footprint is reduced. So here there is a detailed commitment for medical waste, toxic materials, safer chemicals, green building, energy, healthy food, pharmaceutical, sustainable procurement, climate and health, and transportation and water, all this being clubbed. And when you have a program strongly taken up in the hospitals and you get certified for healthcare without harm, it means that you are as part of the leading global movement on environmental responsible healthcare. To give you an understanding now, before I conclude, this is what the upstream and downstream happens. Now, reporting company can be any company. In the center, you can see reporting company can be any company. It can be healthcare sector. It can be, Tatas and Birlas and Adani or anybody, because all of them somewhere or the other come into a supply chain. You want to build a hospital, you have to buy the cement. Now you can make a choice from whom you want to buy the cement. There may be many cement companies who have displayed the sustainability report and say, in making of 1 ton of cement, my energy consumption is so and so. It is all publicly available today. So now you have a choice to make, which is a sustainable cement company from where I will procure cement to build my hospital. It is as clear as that today, as compared to the olden days where we didn't have much of clarity. So here you can see upstream is the total supply chain, and downstream is transportation, distribution, healthcare, home care, etc. That goes, and also the customer care, etc. All that which goes after your treatment of the patient. So if you look into the scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, as I was indicating to you, scope 1 is something like 13% contribution directly from the healthcare operational emissions, that means hospitals. 7% is healthcare related transport. Now scope 3, upstream and downstream, transport is contributing to 11%, other manufacturing 9%. So the distribution you can see, 40% is coming from the electricity, distribution of electricity for gas, heating or cooling. Now, direct consumption within the healthcare is only 12%. Even though we say that our healthcare sector is very energy intensive, there's a lot of power being consumed in our OTs and all that, but still you should understand, when you look at the global scenario, the major portion of it, the opportunity to conserve, is in the scope 3, in addition to scope 2. Now, this is a glimpse of the global scenario for you. Healthcare country-wise or region-wise by emission. United States is the highest contributor, followed by China, European Union, Japan, Russia, Brazil, India. So all of them, they are coming in the hierarchy. Now, total country emission, that means this is only by healthcare. This is by total emission, by all sectors. So this you may not be of much interest. We stand in the 4th position over here. So you can see here the top 10 emitters as percentage of global healthcare footprint. If you look at, we also are appearing in the list, though not much, but then our contribution is also there. Now, in Indian scenario, you can see the climate footprint is almost like 39, and emission per capita, that means per person, is 0.03. This is in the healthcare I'm talking about. This is scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. Even in India, you can see 81% contribution is from the upstream and downstream. That is, you need to take care not only of your hospitals, but all of your suppliers and your, the customers and aftercare, the homes that are available for healthcare. So you need to extend your controls not only to the healthcare sector, hospitals, but to your left and to your right. Unless you control your left and your right, because you have a power to influence the left and the right, then this equation or the goal of sustainability, it will be very tough to actually achieve. So there are 6 target plans that has been put up for the climate smart healthcare system. The first one is reduction of healthcare climate footprint. Second is support societal transition to clean and renewable energy, that net zero emission in healthcare by 2050, make development assistance for health climate smart, establish and implement government action plans for climate smart healthcare. Now, the 6th one is what I want to leave your thoughts by concluding, that deepening the research on healthcare and climate change is the 6th action plan. So CAHO has taken up a very serious initiative by taking the 6th action plan to realization, by trying to connect the institution, students, and the mentors over here from various sectors, and also to see that the hospitals are connected for deepening the knowledge and research in climate change. Not only climate change, it will get extended to sustainability. So I thank you very much once again for the opportunity, and over to you, Vaishnavi.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. Sustainability in healthcare itself is a very unique concept. Your presentation was very clear, gave a very clear understanding for using sustainability in healthcare. There is one question, ma'am. I would like to take that up. Question is by Dr. Raja Jaykumar. What are the recent or main risk factors influencing sustainability in healthcare?
I think Dr. Sandeep has already answered this question in his presentation. Dr.
Add, can I add?
Please go ahead.
I'm audible?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. So immediate risk in hospital, which I forgot to tell was, we, what is the viral load in hospital today? And everybody is getting infection. So recently we did surveillance in hospital. The if it is not ventilated, you are getting viral load in air samplers. And as a part of now air pollution, there is a requirement of air disinfection devices because air, for example, even in an OPD ward, for example, you assume COVID goes. In OPD ward, there are seasonal flus. Okay. So immediate in hospital is whether there are proper air disinfection devices. Immediate. Immediate. Second is, for example, there are various standards of health and hygiene in hospital. I'll give an example. Suppose a patient is in an operation theater, there is a air quality standard and also surface standard for microbial load in hospitals that we are not following. So that is immediate to the doctors, to the patients who will visit OPD wards daily. So we have developed some air disinfection devices. Second, immediate is suppose pandemic is one of the worst of its kind. Similarly, are we aware of the next wave and whether we have sufficiently innovated on the hospital infrastructure, preventive measure, affordability, and the impact? And what is the long-term strategy? Suppose COVID again comes, and what are the after COVID? What are the effects going to be for the patient? For example, somebody gets COVID, his immunity is compromised. What will be his lifestyle? Whether he is likely to get. So this is regarding in COVID, okay, and whether the virus will mutate and what type of preventive measures were taken. Okay, so in hospitals now, especially in dental hospitals, so air disinfection devices are coming, and if US FDA guidelines have come, but unfortunately in India that is not there. And second, compounded by other unavoidable factors like air pollution, bad water, bad hygiene, and our education. The main thing is awareness, education of the all your patients and even doctors, whether everybody is going beyond to correct himself, recalibrate himself, and go ahead and again recheck and recalibrate. And also the financial models. Now you see in COVID they're telling it is not a, see, ultimately the financial models support your system and equality. Okay, because one goal is ultimately you have to harmonize everything. Okay, so unless the society becomes equal, okay, so health is the first, equality in health is the first requirement, followed by equality in education and accessibility and affordability. I hope I addressed that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, you want to add on anything?
Not really, Vaishnavi. We have some time also. So he has explained wonderfully. Let's go.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Now I would like to introduce Professor C. Ananda Vairavel, who
Can
will be
you can
some.
madam, can I add one
Yes,
more
sir.
point?
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Today
Please
you
go
can
ahead.
see the newspaper, even to take the COVID virus sample, you are importing the swabs. Okay. So earlier innovation was we developed the swab. Today you can see from CCMB, our sister lab, you can take dry swabs also. So now Apollo hospitals in collaboration with CCMB, today the news came, dry swab is as good as the imported wet swab. So that is the impact it make on the patient in terms of affordability and Feluda. It is coming to the market. It is from our sister lab IGIB, Institute of Genomics Integrative Biology. So the director himself is a doctor from AIMS. So I'm just giving example. Why I'm giving this example are, this is just this type of things if we can do in 4 months. So the partnership for the goals is important. A lot of students have a lot of opportunities uh, in research. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to introduce Professor C. Ananda Vairavel, who will be summarizing the whole webinar. Sir is principal of Sri Venkateshwara College of Paramedical Sciences, Pondicherry. He has done his MSc in Medical Biochemistry, MBA Hospital Management, and PhD in Medical Biochemistry. He has around 20 years of teaching experience. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for giving me this wonderful opportunity, and thank you, Kaho. I'm here to give an essence of the information given by two essential speakers. Firstly, Dr. Sandeep sir highlighted about the areas and opportunities to the students available for research. Here he enlightened about the 17 SDG, meaning Sustainability Development Goals, and he also indicated the three important areas where the research is concentrated now. Firstly, concentrate on the preventive and elaborate and curative system, where the importance of nutrition is emphasized. I was talking about the nutraceuticals, the importance of omega-3, and the latest research about vitamin D and immunity. Then he was talking about the clean air, water, and sewage system at present happening in our country. And he also enlightened about the 40 CFTR, Central Food Technology Research Institute in India, where Humpty and Dumpty number of opportunities are available. Then coming to the next speaker, Kirti Ridusa ma'am, was enlightening about what do you mean by sustainability, which is nothing but handing over the environment as such from the donor to the recipient. And ma'am was emphasizing on the triple bottom principle: economy, environment, and society. Then emphasis was made on the transition from non-healthcare to healthcare, and she also explained in detail about the various elements of the GRA standards 7 plus 8 plus 19, and energy consumption and methods to save energy, information about the carbon imprints and zero carbon goal, greenhouse gas reduction, and the 6 target plans. Finally, she concluded by advising the students that the research can be concentrated on all these above said facts. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Now I request our chairperson, Dr. Shweta Prabhakar, to share a few words about the webinar.
Thank you, Vaishnavi. And thank you, Dr. Sandeep and Kirti D'Souza and Professor Anand for summarizing it, and a wonderful presentation. I must really appreciate the amount of efforts which has Kirti has put in to put this presentation, and it's been so simplified that, even it is actually for the interest of the students who are listening, or the participants, both mentors and students. I'm sure you must have gainfully got some insights into the sustainability projects, and we hope that more sustainability projects come in our way, and students partner with this aim that we need to build this culture of sustainability in our country. And Dr. Sandeep, I really appreciate your detail and your wonderful insight into the sustainable goals, which you very aptly explained. And we are, students would be really interested gaining more insights into those goals. So probably would appreciate that anytime if they want to connect, they can connect with you and understand. Maybe Kirti can coordinate that aspect in case if the students would wish to connect with him. And Kirti, once again, wonderful, thank you. And thank you, Professor Anand, for summarizing it very beautifully. And over to you, Vaishnavi. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot. I would once again like to thank everyone, our guest speaker, Dr. Sandeep, Kirti ma'am, and Professor Ananda Vairavel. And once again, thanks to Dr. Shweta ma'am.
Thank you.